So what the judge did when Blake Lively filed this letter was to say to her, "Shut up."
Yeah, we've lost some talk.
Hi and welcome to Flossom Talk. I'm Tashti Flo, journalist, Hollywood truth teller, and your voice of reason in a town built on delusion. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who watched my podcast with Kadi Wurrer on Friday. If you haven't seen that yet, it's amazing. She's amazing. She's on fire and she's sharing so much tea that it will make you blush. I promise you. Anyways, let's start this episode with something very positive. So thank you, Barbara, so much for sending me this Instagram post. So this is from a guy called Matthias De Stefano. He posted this on his Instagram a couple of days ago, and there are pictures of Justin Baldoni and his wife, Emily, up in the mountains in Sweden. As you know, Emily is Swedish, so I think they do spend a fair amount of time in Sweden. I've seen them where they're before. I think during It Ends With Us premiere, he actually went to a theater in Sweden and talked to people there. So now they're up in the mountains in an area called Akka. And this guy is saying about this area that Akka, the great mother, the grandmother of all Norse gods, this is the center of feminine power, the dragon's crown center, not that dragon, by the way. And for over a year, the message was that path would begin in Akka, that from there we would recognize the gates of Valhalla and what is lost, broken at the gates between heaven and earth. I hope that Justin and his wife, Emily, found some peace up in the mountains, because every time I go up to the mountains in Norway, it's some kind of magic up there. And I'm sure it's the same thing up in the mountains in Sweden. There's so much, it's so peaceful. And I feel it's the best therapy in the world. So happy to see these photos again. Thank you, Barbara, for sending them to me. And I think it's great to see that him and his wife is far away from Hollywood and Blake Lively right now. So let's dig into all the crazy stuff that's been going on since last time I was on. And since then, more crazy stuff has been happening. So as you know, this reporter from the Daily Mail, his name is James Vitushka. There's been so much controversy around this guy because he filed a sworn statement back in June where he sworn that he had never told Brian Friedman that Leslie Sloan had said to him that Blake Lively was SA'd on the set of It Ends With Us. What he meant to say was the word SH, which is a very different story than being SA'd. Anyways, that's not all he wanted to say. He also wanted to add something to the context here. So before this weekend, he filed another sworn statement saying that he was forced into signing the first sworn statement. Now he said that the Daily Mail had pushed him to sign this and he wanted to add some more information. And with that information, Blake Lively's team found more fuel. I'll get more into what he said in his new statement because this is so complicated, you guys. I tried to explain it simple on Friday, but all these little details of words that's been twisted or not, or what people actually believed, if it was in good faith, if it wasn't in good faith. So basically what he's saying now is that he says that Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, and Melissa Nathan both knew that Leslie Sloan never had told him that Blake Lively had been SA'd or SH'd on the set of It Ends With Us. And Blake Lively's team now think this is their new smoking gun because now they can say that Brian Friedman knew that he filed that defamation case against Leslie Sloan and the others in bad faith. So James Vitushka is now saying in his new sworn statement, he's ending this with saying, by filing a lawsuit based on falsely casting me as a source of a SA allegation, Mr. Friedman, his clients, and those apparently aligned or acting in concert with them have caused immense harm and I believe misled this court. That's pretty serious. They have damaged my reputation, cost me my employment, and undermined my career as a journalist. Wow, it sounds like here that he's kind of ready to sue Brian Friedman and the Wayfair team. because he's accusing them of all these things, which is terrible. So as soon as this letter from James Vitushka hit the docket, Blake Lively's team jumped on it, and so did Leslie Sloan. Blake Lively's team was like, look at this. Now we have more evidence that we need to see even more of Justin Baldoni's communications with Brian Friedman and everyone. They want to, as I said before, they want to see communication from the Wayfair parties, not only until Blake Lively filed a lawsuit, but until today, because as you know, they say that this is an ongoing smear campaign. So they used this letter to say to the judge, hey, this is another evidence here that Brian Friedman is lying, and we need to get more evidence from him. We need to see more filings from him after 2024 or after 2025 started. This is another attempt, of course, from Blake Lively's team to push this lawsuit even further, because now people have started forgetting what this is all about, because she still hasn't been able to prove any SH on the set of It Ends With Us. We're still waiting for that evidence. And as you know, if she can't prove that, everything else just falls apart. So the fact that James Vitushka now is trying to help Blake Lively's team by painting Brian Friedman as a liar here might hurt Brian Friedman and his team, or it might not. So what the judge did when Blake Lively filed this letter was to say to her, shut up. It's not your time to speak. Bravo, thank you, Liman. He basically jumped in and said, Blake Lively, it's not your time to talk now. You had your chance. Now it's up to Brian Friedman and his time and his team to respond to your first letter, and that more information got on the docket in the meantime. I don't care about that. It's not your time to talk, and we want to hear from Brian Friedman now. So Blake Lively has to withdraw this letter to the judge. It's going to be interesting to see what the judge thinks about this letter from James Vitushka. If he's going to take him serious as a witness, or if he's going to say, I don't believe you because you've lied before, because you seem to like change your mind too much. I don't know. I do find it worrisome, though, if what he's saying is true about Brian Friedman, that they knew that he didn't say these things. He retracted it afterwards, and he said that he made sure that they knew that the things that he had said wasn't really true. To me, the fact that James Vitushka just shared all this information with Justin Baldoni's team, I think is extremely unprofessional. He showed them his sources, and then he was mad because they used it in their lawsuit, and he accused them of cherry picking and taking them out of context. Exactly what Blake Lively did in that New York Times article. So who knows where the truth lays here? I'm not going to say that Brian Friedman and his team never played dirty in any way. I'm sure that they are doing things too that could be seen as shady. What do I know? We will probably find out soon. But anyways, Blake Lively's team is now trying to show this text to prove that the entire lawsuit that Justin Baldoni filed against Leslie Sloan and them was based on a lie. I feel like there was a lot more defamation going on against Justin Baldoni, as we've seen in so many text messages. And that's also something that Katie from Without a Crystal Ball has been pointing out lately. She's been on fire on Instagram. You have to follow her there to see all her latest updates on everything that James Vitushka told her in writing. She has all the receipts. James Vitushka came to her and basically poured out all this information. One of the things that he showed her was an email from Leslie Sloan where she basically shared all this information with him to try to smear Justin Baldoni. She said, amongst other things, this has nothing to do with just Blake, but with the way that Justin treated everyone on the film. And then she's basically saying that because Justin Baldoni is a man, he should let Blake Lively decide everything, because this is a movie about a woman who is being abused by a man. So if she's saying that this film has intimate scene, so for a man to direct a film involving intimate scenes with a woman without allowing the woman to have any input is unacceptable. She says he took control and insisted that they do things his way. This angered everyone collectively, but he also had issues with them individually. She basically said in text messages, as we've seen before, that everyone had an issue with Justin Baldoni on the set. Everything that she's feeding to James Vitushka is a way to try and smear Justin Baldoni. Amongst other things, I'm not going to read all of this, but amongst other things, she also says there is no love for Justin from the cast on this film, and he will not be getting any praise from them. She says, after the promotion and PR for this film is over, this will be talked about. But no one wants to take away from the brilliance of this film by making this about him. She also said, Blake and others in the film have been promoting this for months. Justin, on the other hand, has been allowing them to do this while doing as little as possible. And then she added, we cannot use this, but Ryan had nothing to do with this. She's pointing out specifically that Ryan had nothing to do with this. She forgot to say, except writing that rooftop scene and being responsible for the promotion of the film. Anyways, and she says, but he is Blake's husband. So if there are any issues that are bothering her, of course he's going to defend her and do what he can to make sure that the situation is corrected. So to explain this message that Sloan had sent him, James Vitushka explained this to Katie when he forwarded this message. He said, Sloan and I discussed Justin Baldoni multiple times, and the information she provided was used in several published stories in the Daily Mail. Screenshots of our conversations have appeared in multiple legal complaints. In one of them, I clearly state that the backlash against Blake was organic and that Melissa Nathan never did anything wrong, because that is the truth. Over the years, she has routinely weaponized sensitive intel about anyone perceived as a threat to her clients. If you remember from that original complaint that Justin Baldoni filed against them, he had so much evidence of conversations between people on his team, Jennifer Abel, Melissa Nathan, specifically back and forth talking to him about how they're not responsible for anything going on in the press. The only thing that they did that they have evidence of what that they did was to push Justin Baldoni's narrative that he's not a bad guy. That's all they did. And there are continuous evidence of this, like this message here that someone sent to Melissa Nathan saying that Blake Lively fearing for her career amid it ends with us backlash. It's a story they forwarded in the chat. And Melissa Nathan says, God, I'm so over this. I'm sure Leslie thinks we placed this one as well. So Leslie kept accusing them of placing all these stories in the media, while she at the same time was trying everything in her power to feed negative stories about Justin Baldoni. So many people have asked in chats, and I've seen in comments everywhere, if Brian Friedman has this information, if he has any of this information that Katie over Without a Crystal Ball has. I don't know if he does, but I think this is like, there's so much evidence here of what happened. He also drops a bombshell in another message to Katie saying that Tree Payne, Taylor Swift's publicist, that's also a very known publicist, is his source to the story about Taylor Swift being blackmailed by Blake Lively. As you know, Taylor Swift's dad is the one that shut down that subpoena and that actually informed Brian Friedman and his team about what had happened. And he didn't go directly to the media himself, but here James Vitushka says that he was told this story by Tree Payne coming directly from Taylor Swift. So now we have to see if she is going to admit to being the source of this story. Now she's a source too. This looks even worse for James Vitushka because now he has revealed more sources. He is in a mess. I'm sorry this happened to him, that he was put in this situation, but the way he's been handling it is all over the place and is only going to backfire more. And now, of course, Leslie Sloan jumped on this as well and wrote a letter again to the judge saying, because of this new evidence, it means that Justin Baldoni's team filed this defamation case against her in bad faith, meaning that she thinks she should have her attorney's fee covered because of that. So that could also cost Justin Baldoni's team millions of dollars. Also, before I forget, I wanted to again remind people of this evidence that was also in Justin Baldoni's lawsuit. TMZ texted Melissa Nathan saying that People Magazine story about Justin Baldoni false about cast crew hating him. So TMZ is admitting that that story is false that People published. I guess this happened before TMZ was in the pocket of Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, and they said, we are told cast and crew find Justin a nice guy. Don't take as harsh of sides behind scenes as it's being reported. At this point, we're told he's being milked for publicity. Justin's over it. It really was creative differences between Blake and Justin, but it wasn't nearly as bad as reported. Blake's huge ego, etc., is the reporting. So they're saying that what they're hearing over at TMZ is that it's not Justin Baldoni that's the problem, it's Blake Lively's ego. And Melissa says further down here, do you have sources? Blake Lively's camp keeps thinking it's us placing them, these stories. Again, Melissa Nathan is desperate to prove that she's not the one placing these stories. And there's another chain between her and TMZ where they're actually talking about my interview that I posted. TMZ is laughing about the story, by the way, which I don't think is so something to laugh about, but whatever. It says, reporter says Blake Lively's little bump taunt felt like a bullet. And I talked about that openly in that interview, why it hurt my feelings. But anyways, TMZ is laughing their ass off. We interviewed her too. Let me find it. That interview effed her. Talking about Blake Lively and how my interview effed her. And then Melissa Nathan responds, when? Lol. Also, what the F? Why am I in this too? They are putting Melissa Nathan in that story because, as you know, they connected me to Melissa Nathan because I posted my interview with Johnny Depp during the trial, and because Melissa Nathan was also representing him as his crisis manager. And you know, that's what New York Times reported on, connecting me with Melissa Nathan. I've never met her, never heard about her before this happened. So it's so obvious that Justin Baldoni's crisis management team doesn't know what's going on. They're even pointing at text messages where they're like, oh, Blake Lively is getting so much hate. This is not us. These are bots. Can we prove that these are bots? Because they didn't want to be associated with anything attacking Blake Lively. The only thing that they tried to do during this entire time was save Justin Baldoni's image. Another filing is Blake Lively's team. They say that we have more evidence that Jed Wallace has smeared Blake Lively. So now they're trying again to prove a smear campaign. But all we see from all this evidence that they're filing again is that there is a team who's trying to save Justin Baldoni. There's nothing about putting anything negative out about Blake Lively. I haven't seen any evidence anywhere where they talk about putting Blake Lively in a negative light. All they talk about is SEO strategies and PR tricks, manipulating SEO by pushing positive stories about themselves, about Justin Baldoni. And that's a very, very normal thing to do. This is what Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds is doing every single day when all these new stories comes out about them. If that's smearing, then Blake Lively is smearing Justin every day while she's pushing her own narrative and her own stories online. That recent story where she's going to be in a new movie, for example, but it's such an old trick in the book. She's signed on to this movie and she's the only person signed on to it. It's ridiculous, but it is a PR trick and it got picked up everywhere. And as I said in my latest episode, we'll see if that movie ever happens. The other movie she has like in the pipeline, she signed up 8 years ago and nothing's happened there. And she's the only one attached to that movie. So anyways, they also keep asking for Jed Wallace client base. They keep pushing for that. And they said that the judge allowed them to see his clients. But that was before I think his case was dismissed the first time. So now they're saying we want to see his clients, so they want him to reveal his celebrity client base, which of course he doesn't want to do. And they're saying we want to see that so that we can see if there's a pattern here, if other clients of his has smeared other celebrities in the press, and by doing that we can prove that he smeared Blake Lively. I don't know, I guess that's their logic here, and I'm sure that his client base of other celebrities, I'm not going to be too happy about that. And by doing that, I don't think Blake Lively is going to get any more friends in Hollywood. Also, there's a rumor about a feud now between Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Reynolds on the set of The Avengers. I don't have too much information on that. I think it's just rumors, but at this point, some people have been covering it. I haven't had the time to look into it more, but I will, I promise. And I think if it is a feud between the two of them, there are two big egos involved here. And I think I wouldn't get on the wrong foot with Robert Downey Jr. because if one person has more power in Hollywood than Ryan Reynolds, it's him. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all your support, and please keep sending me tips. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and check if you've been unsubscribed, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss an episode of Flawsome Talk. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye.
Yeah, we flawsome talk.